3.5 minutes.
Yeah, will do. Can you? Okay, sorry. Ruchika sent a question to check the eyeline. Uh, can you recommend some useful apps to boost productivity at home? Are you, Ruchika? Are you going to scroll it down? Is she going to put the question down?
Yeah, all audience questions are going to be scrolled down.
Testing my audio again. Is it okay? Shivani, testing my audio. Is it okay?
Okay at my end. Shivani, can you hear
Yeah,
us?
yeah. Audio is fine. Audio is good.
Okay. Okay.
Sure, this is the frame, no? Now this is the final one.
Yes, that's your final frame.
Listen, guys, I must warn you, there is on and off rain today, okay, over here in my area. So suddenly it just gets dark and suddenly it just gets bright. So don't panic if there is a shift in the light.
Phones, thankfully, have got auto exposure, so they should come to our rescue.
Yeah, so I have put in all the lights at the place where I'm sitting, but still, because it's natural light, I'm sitting close to a natural source of light. So I should warn you that suddenly, out of nowhere, it starts looking darker.
Okay, I think we'll be hitting live in about 30 seconds, so I'll request you both to maintain silence now.
Sure.
Otherwise, our audio will
Sure.
start leaking.
Sure.
Okay, see you guys. All the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Shibani Gharat. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the prolonged lockdown has changed the future of work in many, many ways. And it has also brought about a drastic change in remote working. In this webinar, we are talking about the best practices and strategies for remote working and the tools and, whatever strategies that you can use to make remote working easy and suitable to you wherever you are working, whether it is home or whether it is somewhere else. And to discuss more on this today, we have with us IDC India's research director, Navendra Singh, with us. Navendra, we are waiting for him to join. Navendra, welcome to the show. Welcome to this webinar.
Thank you, Shibani. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Tell us, over the past couple of weeks, how are you personally working from home? How has life changed for you work-wise?
Yeah, wow. So, see, as an organization, we always encourage, work from home because as research leaders in this particular domain, future of work and remote working, we were always advocating this. So it was not such a shock for us. We were technologically enabled, and we'll speak more about that. But otherwise, what it has happened is that it has really blurred our, I'm sure all of us agree that, all the boundaries between our work and life. I have a 2-year-old kid at home, so you can imagine how easy or difficult it is to work, with a 2-year-old. My wife is also working throughout the day. She's in enterprise sales, so both of us keep on being on the calls. Then we have a 2-year-old kid. So yeah, it's interesting. We are discovering new things, but I think more or less, we personally have been okay. Although I'm hearing many challenges, with my friends and family also. And we'll speak more about that. But yeah, this seems to be the new normal, so to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you, take dibs on who's going to use what room? Because my parents always complain about how they truly feel quarantined when, I start working from home. I start shooting like this.
No, absolutely, we do that. So, for example, if I'm doing this right now, webinar, my wife is taking calls in the other room. So she says second half of the day she'll come here, and I have to go to the other room. So we have to do that. Yeah, we're managing that. Yeah, that's tough.
Okay, so Navendra, this COVID-19 has brought about so many disruptions in the way in which we work, we live. Can you tell us the key disruptions brought about in, working? We, of course, discussed work from home, but totally changed, the way in which we work. One of the things that I know is people have become extremely punctual when comes to working from home.
Absolutely. So, see, it's a large scale forced experiment which the world is going through right now. Much used, but this is a new normal. This is unprecedented, and almost it's fair to say almost no one was ready for it. At least was not expecting that they'll be forced to do this at such little preparedness. And as you can imagine, I mean, all of us first 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks of this lockdown, it almost a shock to everyone. We were trying to adjust to this, new called normal. So the disruptions happen in the sense that how do you work from home? And we'll speak about, detail in, some of these things, I hope. We don't have a suitable space to work from home. How do we communicate? Because, man is humans are very social animals. Disjointed, collaboration efforts. We're grappling with the connectivity issues and really basic enabling technologies which generally we take for granted when we reach office. And when we reach office, we just open a laptop, plug in, take a coffee, and then start working. Now we realize that the whole infrastructure which enables you to do that is really not such a small thing. And I'm not very sure that it's India as a country from a consumer grade enablement of the technology which we're using right now is really ready or not. So those are the few disruptions, and obviously it was a shock to everyone, all of us.
So you cited like a couple of technical headaches when it comes to working from home, the infrastructure. What apart from these, apart from the data connectivity, apart from setting up a workspace, apart from living with other people who you are living with at home, apart from these, what are like the larger tech challenges when it comes to working from home?
So one of the most important is, which as we started was, do we have laptops or desktops or computers? So we take it for granted, isn't it? In our roles, and many of the roles in the organization still work on desktops. We have seen it across industry. So how do you enable
Correct.
those roles from home? They don't have a desktop, they don't have a laptop. Can we do it on the phone? Absolutely not. Even if people had, laptops and desktops in those computing devices, do they have access to all the systems in place at home? Not so. For example, in banking systems, you can't access banking system from home. How do you, enable transaction from home? So all the stuff was there. And secondly, most important, which was very underappreciated, was a dedicated space for, working from home. And when I say space, nook and corner with decent lighting, table, chair, ergonomic table, which can, have, which you can put your desktops or laptop. Third important one is the ambient sounds and the distractions, right? Pets at home, dogs, cats, kids, small kids, people who have three kids, their schools will also, e-learning is happening. How do you enable their classes and while you are on the calls also? Other family members, right? All those ambient sounds and, in major cities where the houses are not so big, how do you even do that? Then came the smaller screens, right? Smartphones versus laptops and monitors and desktop we spoke about. Connectivity issues was very, very important. So as we spoke about, the consumer grade, connectivity, broadband, home broadband is many times, I mean, we have also faced that. Slight bit of rain outside, weather changes and, electricity goes off or connectivity is not there. Two people, one person, family member is streaming Netflix or Amazon Prime and suddenly we can't do it, call. That was one of the major problems. Then the collaboration challenges, which tools to use, how do you use that, how do you share screens, and so on and so forth. I think these were, 4 or 5 major ones, which many of us are still grappling. Some of us have had learning curve, but some of things are still there. It takes some time.
Navkendra, we are here speaking about all the challenges, the technical challenges, setting up a space kind of challenge, since we have started working from home over the past couple of weeks. But, freelancers have been doing this forever. Many people who have been working from home for a very long time have been doing it forever. What are the key learnings that we can take from these guys?
Same thing. So whatever challenges we spoke about for people like us, and I know, for a fact, many of my friends are freelancers in technical, journalism and other stuff. So they have their, discipline and the days, drawn, much in advance. They have a dedicated space in a, corner of the house, which is absolutely sacrosanct for them. So they have a table which can, enable their tech working, ergonomic chair, which you have to sit for 599 hours, and many of the chairs in offices are very expensive. We think twice about buying them at home. One of the things which has started coming is the standing desk, because health is important. So many of my friends who are freelancers, and we've seen that standing desk is actually in demand these days. Connectivity is very important. We have seen many of the freelancers who are successfully doing stuff. They actually take a very high tier broadband. And they take actually very robust routers also. I have also changed that, my router, last week, because when you are at home, you have 2 PCs, 2 TVs, and about, 10 smartphones, so on and so forth, plus your appliances and lights and other stuff. So how do you enable all that, working? Connectivity is important. Then specific devices, depending on the role. If it's a very data intensive role for you as a freelancer, you need probably a desktop or a monitor. Or monitor with a laptop so that you can work there, because versus a 14-inch and a 21 and 29 inches, it's a sea of difference. We as analysts, we also do that. We actually told some of our colleagues and the team members, after the lockdown, go to office and pick up your monitors and take home. That's okay, because it's a very excellent as an analyst. One of the important ones underappreciated is a VPN. So when you're working from home, VPN becomes very important, right? Secure web connections, that protect the information between employees, your organization, or whichever organization you're working with, the publication, and so on and so forth. They encrypt data and prevent cyber threats also.
Correct.
And one of the important ones which we're realizing now, after COVID, because calls, video calls and other stuff. One is getting a separate, probably a webcam. Because most of the devices which we have seen on laptops, they don't have smartphone grade selfie cams to so to say. Smartphones have better cams, and that's how we experience our selfies and other stuff. And then we see our recording and other stuff on the laptops. It's not a very good experience. So some people actually have separate webcams, separate mics also, and good noise isolation or noise cancelling headphones or earphones also. I think these are some of the things that are important. But overall, they have a work discipline and time management in place. For example, I learned from them. I get up at 8:30, 9 o'clock, have my bath, freshen up, and then I start my work at 9 o'clock, change of clothes. So that there is a clear demarcation, even if you're not traveling 30 minutes, 1 hour to your workplace, but there is a clear demarcation in your day, and same thing at 6:30 in the evening also. So I think those things are important, and they were successful in doing that.
Yeah, and that's a great thought when you mentioned about the challenges of a smartphone, a laptop camera as compared to like a smartphone camera, which is much more equipped. Also, what is the difference that a right kind of computer will make to the way in which you work from home?
Okay, so as I said, so it really depends on the role also. For example, if you are middle management or higher management, when you're working in office, working from home, you already have a slimmer and lighter laptop, and depending on the role, you have to write emails or approve some documents and so on and so forth. So you can do that. But if it's a very data heavy or a graphic heavy work for the freelancers, they, as I spoke about, they need probably monitors and desktops. Content creation can be done on a, nowadays we're getting some laptops, on which are very heavy grade, on which you can do, some heavy duty data working also. One of the things which is important is, concept called modern PCs or always connected PCs. So, for example, as we spoke about smartphones, see, smartphone usage in the past 3-4 years in the world and more so in India is really shaping how we consume this kind of technology. It's really, governing our habits. We need those kind of stuff in our laptops and desktops as well. So, 4 aspects. You can switch on and off your smartphone at the click of a button, right? Fingerprint and all the stuff. So fast booting in a laptop, people are asking these days. Mobility is important. Even if you're working from home, but it should be thin and light, and it should be very portable. One room to the another. Battery life is another one, right? Gone are the days when you used to have 3 to 4 hours battery life on a laptop. People are demanding 10 hours plus battery life. And I think going forward, even if work from home, since the data is so cheap, the connectivity, the always connected PCs are going to be very important. So the importance of this kind of stuff is important, and then obviously comes that better mic and webcam we spoke about. There are dedicated machines which are much more powerful, ready to take the load. I think these are the things that computing device can actually change your experience when you're working from home. If you're working on an old machine, which takes time to boot up, it doesn't really connect to the half of the apps are not compatible with the OS. You've not updated the OS. I think it's going to be a challenge. So I think you need to invest in a decent computing device and take reviews from the market. And there are enough and more options available in the market now.
We spoke about mostly about the great hardware features that could be added to the computer. Also, slightly touched upon how powerful should the device be. But on the software front, to ensure data privacy, to ensure security, to ensure smooth functioning, what are the features that you require in your computer, in your desktop, and in your laptop?
See, from a very pertinent point, when as a freelancer or as a gig worker, when you work for different companies, different projects, you have to ensure that the data transfer and file and everything is very very crucial. So what are the precautions we can take? So one of the things is that you should keep your operating system updated at all times, right, to the latest versions. And most of the OS providers these days, most of the operating systems are powerful enough to protect your possible malware attacks. Obviously, hackers are getting very nifty, and you can't compare it with the really enterprise grade when you are working on the office LAN. But enough and more things are available in the market. So latest version, ensure your system is always updated to the latest security patches, which most of the OS players and most of the OEMs also they keep on rolling out on a monthly basis. There are third-party software tools available which can really boost your PC's performance, usability, and security. So there are some concerns that might slow down your PC, but it really gives a robust security also to you. But basic data security rules like having a secured backup So possibly on a hard drive for your data, or you should buy a cloud service. That's important. And most of the PC vendors these days, they're also rolling out enhanced security offerings, which enable their customers for the cybersecurity threat. So it's better to enroll in these kind of even the value add programs, even if it costs something. But it's important to to enroll in these kind of programs and services, even if freelance worker doesn't want to explore all the possible third party options. So if you buy a laptop from a particular brand, they also have options and programs where you can do that. And last, we spoke about the VPN also. VPN is very important. It really secures the web connections. It's not open to hackers, and it protects the information which to and fro and data files and sharing. These are the things which are important. Yeah.
Okay, these things are on the computer and the laptop side, but also, our world has probably shifted. All our meetings have shifted online. There are certain platforms that have faced several hacking issues, and many platforms, in fact, are banned by several organizations. So, how important is it to choose the right platform to conduct your meetings, and also how do you choose that?
Oh, very, very important. And I think one of the most important things these days, at least, is as good as the hardware, the software is also important. So I think few tips are can be given. So we should focus on the problem, not the technology. So it's very easy to get attracted by new apps and new technology, but it's much more important to keep in mind the problems which you are trying to solve. So is your primary use case brainstorming, or is it file sharing real time, or is it demoing your work which you have done as a freelance worker? These three things are important. So once you figure out those, I think it's then becomes easier to choose a technology. So if let's say someone says to me that I should be using some XYZ, then my response should be, why should I use XYZ? What are the features? Second is, we should avoid jumping on the latest buzz in the market. So as I spoke about, new apps and new hot collaboration tools is a very common mistake. Just because a collaboration suite is great solution for a startup or a big organization doesn't mean as a freelancer it will be good for you, right? So important that probably the organization as a freelancer you are working for, or the the ecosystem players, or as a gig worker, do they also work on this tool? Is it compatible with their tools also? Is it compatible with your other softwares which you use, your email clients and your other graphic tools? Is it compatible with that? Second is, I think investigating the security features. As with any software, we should be very clear that collaboration tool security features are important, because what are the security features, privacy terms, and data collection methods? Really go into the terms of that. For example, does a group chat tool really offer end-to-end encryption, or do you have to buy and subscribe? Because multi-factor authentication, many of the organizations, even I know, they absolutely ignore this. And multi-factor authentication on a smartphone is like a second thing to us. So and fourth one is total cost of ownership. So subscription based, or is it a license? What are the things you will get in a license? That's important. Then I spoke about interoperability and compatibility with the platform of your clients and your other softwares as well. Really make a checklist of the features, calendar syncing, file sharing, all in one. All these things are available, but we should be very methodical in figuring out the madness of collaboration tools these days.
My next question to you is a survival question. It's a typical question that you ask, if you're going to jungle, what are the 5 things that you will carry? So if you have to work from anywhere, what are the 5 most important, or a few more most important things that you should have on the devices that you have? Whether it's the battery life, the kind of apps that you use, battery backups. How should you go about it?
So one is the device. As per your requirement and the role and the work profile. Not everything can be done on the phone. Many of the things can be done on the phone, but then you can do your banking transaction on the phone. But really, sometimes collaboration between, let's say, more than 4 or 5 people is very difficult to do video calls on the phone. So to that extent, and not only working from home, even if you're working from somewhere, let's say 6 months down the line, everything opens up, we go to a coffee shop also, and we get used to working from home now. Your laptop should have, it should be thin, light, portable. It should have battery life of at least 10 hours, so that you don't, even if you go at 10 o'clock, you should be able to do it by 6 o'clock, right? You shouldn't have to carry another charger with you. Secondly, how do you carry the mobile broadband with you? Will it be on the PC? There'll be PCs which will come in, which will have same slot in that. Maybe you can do that, or a dongle. Because if you use your phone as a hotspot all throughout the day, the battery goes for hours. Thirdly is your earphones. That's very important. It should, even if you're working from home or outside, noise and the sound isolation is very important. But then again, you can't wear over-the-ear headphones throughout the day. So maybe a band around the neck, which you can pick up as and when you want. But at the click of a button, you can be able to properly switch between your phone call and this call or a music which you're listening to. And fourth, I think, an important one is we spoke about the privacy and the security. Invest in a good antivirus and keep your OS updated at all times. These four things, if you're able to figure out, and obviously, if you're working from home, one additional gets added is a dedicated space. Dedicated space which gives you that comfort, a feel of office, and broadband and connectivity, which actually gives you same kind of office and stuff. These are the 4-5 things.
Navkeen, when we started working from home, the biggest and the most crucial question that all of us had was, how to keep yourself productive. Because as you mentioned, your travel time has eliminated, and you begin your day at 9 a.m. and you give yourself that space and time to start at 9 and finish at 6:30. But initially, we were really grappling with doing so. Like we used to be all over the place. The calls would go on till late 9:30. Can you suggest a few productivity apps that should be or that anyone who's working from home should install, so that their productivity while working from home also increases, and everything, the rest of the life, also falls in place?
Sure. So some of the things which I'm using, or I've used in the past, are some of the four or five apps. So obviously we should be self-disciplined, but then with all the distraction and everything, that's difficult to come by, and obviously it goes at the bottom of the heap. So and we are using so many apps and technology. If that enables us, why not use it? So one of the things is a to-do list. We should have a to-do list. We should fill up end of the day the status of the things which you have done, and early in the morning. So few apps like TickTick is an app, Evernote, Google Keep, so on and so forth. So having a to-do list is very necessary because for your own productivity. And see, because one of the things is when you're in office, there is some sense of social accountability. But when you're remote, you have to be pro yourself to be self-accountable, right? There's no social accountability when you are at home. So having a to-do list goes a long way. Then second one is that when possible, and many of the freelancers probably, many of us also work with teams which are in different time zones. So some of the apps like Figure It Out, they actually figure out the time zone problem. It's a simple dashboard. It gives you a browser extension also, which allows you to set up all the time zones that you work with, you and your colleagues work with, and translate it to the current time zone at the click of a button. Then there are task management, the project management tools, which are important because tools like Trello, it's a task management tool which I've used, and you can create task boards with columns, align them, so on and so forth. Microsoft also has a couple. Along with the teams, we have OneNote, so which syncs beautifully with Outlook. Then we have a project management software called StreamTime also. Again, which features for time tracking, job planning, quoting, invoicing, very important for freelancer, scheduling, reporting of the invoices. It syncs very seamlessly and does all that. Then one of the most and my favorite ones is the Take a Break Please app, which, as the name suggests, this app tells you when it's time to take a break, right? It tells you when time to take a break, get up from your break next schedule, just walk around, take 10 minutes, 20 minutes off, bio break, so on and so forth. And you can configure the time between the breaks, their durations with the task, and sync it with your calendar so that your colleagues and the team also know that this guy is on a break for 15 minutes.
Correct.
And then obviously there are more apps like meditation app or ambient sounds app are very popular. I've been using a few that it gives you a sound in the background that you're in office. There's a chit chat at the office. So I think those are the things which we are missing, obviously. But those are the things which are important, and they go a long way in productivity and mental health and physical health as well.
I have spoken to like a couple of people, and one of the key concerns raised essentially, in fact, some of the top management guys had mentioned when they began working from home, that the key concern specifically for certain industries was the quality of the output, specifically for industries such as the creative industry, the production industry. So how do you ensure that quality while working from home? Because it's a completely different ball game. Like even when we are editing, everything happens over the phone, everything happens over let's say a FaceTime, or you look at it and then you correct everything. So how do you ensure that quality still remains intact while you're working from home?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and a very pertinent question. And unfortunately, we will not have answer to this, anytime soon. When we also spoke to many of the CXOs, they were also worried that even if we enable the technology and the solutions and the software, how do we ensure that there is business value and the productivity doesn't go down? And surprisingly, so as IDC, what we did was we did some surveys with some of the organization and employees and the freelancers as well. We figured out that people are productive, just that tracking the productivity is slightly difficult. So, for example, one of the case in points is many of the organizations which had the ongoing projects when the lockdown hit us, those were carried on with slight disruption. There was learning curve, but they were completed with slight delay. Clients were also conscious of the fact that they'll be delayed. But people are struggling, including large organizations, that how do you start the new projects now? Because the new projects and a new thing needs brainstorming. It needs physical presence of the people. You are in your office sharing ideas, bouncing off ideas. Then all the collaboration happens in the real time, and that is taking long for organizations to figure out. And I mean, it really has been left to managers to figure out the productivity of their of their teams. So what we do, and I've seen many people doing, is that we generally have as an organization, and we have some of the people who are working freelance also for us. We generally have twice, thrice a week a small huddle where we keep track of the projects which are running, what is the progress pace, any concerns, any issues, escalations, any investment things which are required, what needs to be addressed, and then obviously use some of these tools I spoke about to see the productivity. But unfortunately, this will take some time. Some of the organizations are really, for example, in sectors like IT, ITES, they say that our productivity has gone through the roof. We are able to track it. But then, how do you build a car or a motorcycle sitting at home? You can't do that. Productivity is absolutely true. How do you make food if you're not in the kitchen? So obviously, it will be this work from home also. Work from remote working will also be a very industry-based phenomenon. Some of the industries will adopt this very rapidly because, I mean, this was already coming to us for the past 2-3 years. What COVID has done is really put us in the bang in the middle of the storm, and now we have to figure out. Some of the industries are figuring out, but some of them are really grappling that this productivity cannot happen if we don't have at least 30, 40, 50% of the people in office. So it will take some time to get the answers to this.
Okay. Many organizations like Twitter, for example, have already started saying that, they're going to make remote working a permanent thing. But I wanted to ask you do we have enough infrastructure, enough ecosystem in place to make that a reality in the coming days?
Yeah, again, a tricky one. So, as you spoke about, remote working is always, coming at us at a moderate kind of pace. And we have been, as ITC, we have been speaking, and industry has been speaking about it before COVID as well. This has just accelerated us, and we are in the middle of it now. Now, there is no choice right now. It's a forced experiment which is happening with our lives. personal lives and the work lives both, right? And this forced experiment we are going through has thrown up many challenges, right? Tough to say certainly right now that this will be a permanent. I would reckon that not entirely. See, few things. One, we are inherently social animals, right? We need to see each other's faces, see the body language, study the non-verbal cues. If a non-verbal cue in a conversation is 70% of the output and the input, then how do you do all that working from remote working throughout the year? You won't do that. So probably models like what will happen is uh, 3 out of 5 days, alternate days, work from home, and then come to office once a day or twice a day, right? Team-based kind of work from home, role-based work from home will start happening. Secondly, technology. I mean, you have to. I mean, it's not only about our choice. It's about, are we able to deliver as effectively as we would probably do it in office? Not from a from a human those point of view, but from a technology point of view. I think technology, at least in a market like India, will take time to reach the levels of our expectations from a corporate setup. Both in, I mean, we are trying to do devices and connectivity and chairs and everything, but as we spoke, at the initial stuff, that some of the things which we take for granted are really we're saying, I think that will take some time. And thirdly, most important, not all the roles and the duties can be carried out from home or from, I mean, they need to be in office. So security to the systems, access to the systems, remote access, how do you enable that? Cloud investments and security investments are required. This will be very sector based. So probably IT ideas versus manufacturing we spoke about. How do you find a balance there? And fourthly, most importantly, is the industry and the organizations ready to accept this as permanent? That will also take some time. Many of the organizations right now, when you saw when Unlock 1.1, 1.0 started happening, many of the people had 10 to 15% people, immediately next day in office, right? Because those are the roles which cannot be done from there. Their readiness in terms of measurement of productivity we spoke about, business value, cost benefit analysis. So all those things this will all come together and we'll find some results out of it. I think it's a little early right now.
Okay. Many of the experts still say that work from home is the future of work. Why so? And if it is indeed, then what are the key advantages of working from home for organizations?
See, one of the key advantages why people are saying one of the key advantages is the work-life balance. So people are saying that I'm able to deliver more in the time which is given to me because I don't have distractions of one. Obviously, I don't have the trouble of traveling. 20 to I mean, in India, in major cities, in anywhere with 30 minutes to 1 hour, we go to office. So either the public transport or the private transport. So work-life balance is there. You're able to spend quality time with your family in between the your work and your schedule and the tasks also. Second is many of the organizations, as you said, they are thinking that that the future of work is remote because there is enhanced productivity. These are the initial prima facie signs which they are getting. Obviously, there'll be cost benefit analysis and the roles versus roles which we cannot do. That will happen. Thirdly, importantly, is that you have more control of your time, like flexibility is there. What do you want to do and when you want to do? Obviously, within the timelines of delivery of a project as a freelancer or a gig worker. And fourthly, I think this has really, helped us is that you get a sense of ownership and the responsibility when you're working from home, that you have to deliver stuff and nobody is there to keep an eye on you. And many of the bigger organizations, legacy organizations in India also, it's a very manager versus other people sitting, around that, particular rows and columns and, keep an eye on that. And that's not there. So if nobody's keeping an eye on you, you need to be, self-sufficient and, responsibility and ownership lies on you, that I need to deliver it with the quality which is expected and which was the same, similar to what I've been in office and in those timelines with no let-ups on the quality and the productivity. So I think these are the 4 or 5 things with obviously from the organization point of view is the cost. For 50% of the workforce works from home, you don't have to make them sit in offices. You don't have to have so many offices, right? You don't need to have a 1,000-seater or 8,000-seater office in a big city and
Cost on
most expensive
real estate
office.
and electricity
Absolutely.
gets saved, of course.
Yeah, cost of electricity and other stuff. These are the 4 or 5 things which is why people are saying that it's going to be there. It will happen, just an evolution, because everything, technology, our mindset, and the measurement metrics need to come together, and we should be able to figure that out.
So, these are typical consumer insights that we have seen. And, I defy anyone who says that nothing has changed over the past couple of weeks. It's not
Sure.
possible. Like, consumer behavior has changed so much over the past couple of weeks since we have started working from home. How will it shape the future technology in the coming days, considering so many people in numbers, are working from home? What is the biggest
Yeah.
change that you will see in our laptops, in our smartphones, in our tablets? What is it that we'll see?
Yeah, so some of the things which will happen is, and this is really on the some of the innovations which will start happening is that uh, you will start getting more very enterprise grade technology in your devices which you are using. So as we spoke about the laptops and the PCs, so what will happen is probably you will get a slimmer but which will last very long, just like our smartphones, and that will happen. Then in technology space, you will start getting some of the tools like AI time tracking tools, or one of the things which has really started picking up and people are speaking about is the fitness trackers. When you're working from home, you're not moving as much, so the lack of routine is something people often struggle with as they work from home. And one tip which gets overlooked is getting up for short movement breaks. I think that's going to be very important, that how do you enable your smart your smart home setup also, as working with your technology. uh, these are the some, but some of the things, like you will have, from an innovation point of view, you'll have better mics and the webcams on your PCs, which will be very much like your smartphones, which we spoke about. And always connected will start coming in, faster boot time will start happening. So I think these are the things which will be there, but it will take some time. But I think these are some of the innovations which will start happening.
Also, there is a scope for improvement when it comes to design, because I haven't seen laptops change much. I mean, there have been two-sided laptops that have been launched, but more or less, whatever new laptops that have been launched, they have remained the same over the past couple of years. So, do you also see some design-related innovations, because to make it more comfortable to put it on your lap and work all day long, or to put it on the table in front of you and make it like a desktop kind of experience, which is more convenient?
Oh, absolutely. Some of the we're already seeing the form factors, getting changed. So dual screen kind of touch screens happening.
Yeah.
You are seeing that the detachables are doing very well these days. It can be used as a
Yes.
tablet also, and you can attach
You can attach
a
a keypad.
keypad, and it
Keypad
works
also.
that way also. So as a tablet, you can use it as a fun gaming, streaming, and other stuff. When you attach a keypad, you can use it as office stuff. That'll keep on happening. But really, the difference between really why laptops are still doing well for enterprises and really not completely taken over by smartphones, at least in that space, is because the content creation is still considered that it should be, it's much better on a keypad and on a larger screen. So I think that will take some time, but you will have innovations like, and innovation we spoke about, form factors will be there probably. So probably 3 years down the line, you will see a 7-inch or a 6-inch phone which you can unfold 4 times, and you have a laptop which has a keyboard also. So these kind of form factor changes will happen, but really it will be a content creation and individual consumption device. And smartphone, obviously, market like India, smartphone is one of the most important and sought after devices. Every year, everyone's person, we are doing most of the stuff there. But to do a real serious work, the laptops will still take precedent, and you will see form factor changes there as well, both in terms of security and other stuff also will happen.
Okay. Navkendra, we have a couple of questions from the audience that we would like to ask, and they have sent this to us on our different platforms. So let's just begin with that. So many say that, and we discuss productivity and making yourself more productive, and how some apps can really help you boost that productivity while you're working from home. Tell us, like many say that working from home, the burnout is a real thing. So, how do you ensure that it doesn't happen, while you're working from home in the coming days?
No, absolutely. Burnout is happening, and we have seen it in our near and dear ones also. And that's what we spoke about. That right now we are in the middle of something which we were not prepared for. So burnout is supposed to be because work is like water. Like I mean, it fills up all the available hours which you give to the work. So I think the discipline and the to-do list and that self-discipline is important because nobody's as a freelancer, as a gig worker also, the self-discipline is important. I personally do that. I if it's not a emergency or a fire somewhere, I don't pick up my laptop on weekends. I start at 9 o'clock. I end up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. But in those 5:30, those 8 or 9 hours, you should not do anything else. You should not be streaming. You should not go on Netflix and Amazon or anywhere else. I think that's important. And that's why people were saying that they start their work at 9 o'clock, it never ends because there were so many distractions at home, which we are. And
Yeah.
as humans, it will take some time to put the blinders on, but we will get used to it. And
Yeah.
when as humans, we are reptilian. When we are forced to do something, we find our way out of this. But I think distractions and self-discipline is important. Apps can only help you moderate that. That's all.
We briefly touched upon security, especially for those who are working on different projects. How can you make your system more secure, and how can you ensure a greater data privacy while you're working
See,
from your own system at home? What are the
see,
things
one
that
is
you need to, make a checklist of that should be there in your device?
absolutely, and we spoke about that. One is your OS should be updated with latest security patch at all times. Uh, and if you are working on sensitive data, otherwise also you should invest in a good antivirus or and a VPN also. Third-party softwares are available, and if there is a program or a service from your OEM who has made your PC or your OS, you should invest in that. Not spending money on these things comes very costly to people in the long run. I think it's important to because we generally spend 60, 70,000 on a laptop, but we don't want to generally spend 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 rupees per year on securing whatever is in my laptop. I think that thing needs to change. It will change now, and many of the OEMs and the OS makers and software makers, they are bringing out solutions which are more palatable, more monthly subscription and other stuff. But I think as per your use case, you must spend rather not spend invest money on securing your machines. There are enough and more softwares which are available, VPNs and other stuff also. I think we should invest there.
There is a question from a teacher. She is asking, sorry, he is asking, please suggest some easy tips for teachers working from home.
Sorry, teachers working from home.
Working from home, because education sector is
Okay.
completely gone online. Children and college students are taking all their lessons online. So, what are some tips for teachers who are actually delivering their lectures, who are actually coaching and teaching from home?
Oh, a very interesting one. So, if you are literate with the computer, there are enough and more tutorials available online, which can actually tell you that how to navigate the different collaboration tools. So, I'm sure you're using some collaboration tool when you're teaching your students on the e-learning platform. So, I think there are tips and tricks within those tools also, and there are enough and more tutorials on YouTube also which you can go through. Secondly, I think you should invest your time in probably picking up some of the subscriptions of probably newspapers or some of the publications which actually keep you updated on everything which is happening on your subject. But otherwise, I think this is the time when I can probably there's some amount of empathy. My mother is also a teacher. She's also finding it challenging to teach on the laptop. But I think there is no choice. And interesting question. These are the few tips from my side. Shivani, you have any tips?
No, in fact have a counter question for that. A lot of children are studying from their laptops, which, like parents are giving away their smartphones. And I have seen my own friends, grapple with that and concerned about, okay, what if he goes from this platform to that platform? So how do you ensure that, like the security of the child and, security of, and address the concern of the parent at the same time when a child is studying from the laptop at home? What are the key things that you should ensure that the focus is on the studying or focus is on the
Oh,
classroom while doing so?
okay. So even on the tablet, which is probably an Android or iOS or whatever tablet, or even on a laptop, which is on a different operating system, there are enough and more, child protection measures built in the OS these days. For example, one of the operating system, you can actually say that this YouTube will not be downloaded, or this only YouTube Kids will be downloaded. So that, I mean, we know about YouTube. One video leads to another, and you can end up in seeing violence or something else, which are very objectionable content. And children these days are very nifty in doing that. There are enough and more third party solutions, software available, will actually tell you that some of the apps will not be downloaded itself on that. Even if the child behind your back is trying to install that app, should not be able to do that. You can restrict browser browsing. Only very private browsing cannot be done. All those things are available. Just that some kind of education and some kind of investment is required to actually do that. But yes, it's a real problem. But there are solutions available in the market, third-party solution, and even built in the OS and browsers as well.
Okay, sticking to the question of the teacher, I have another question for you. In fact, some of us who are used to working on devices, who are used to working on computers, laptops, are still, equipped with, working from home. But many who have been suddenly thrown into this work from home and these Zoom meetings and, like many other meetings that you conduct virtually, suddenly the way in which they are also, their security is in fact compromised, especially those who are not well versed with the technology. So how those who are helping them or aiding them get on these platforms ensure that their work from home experience is also secure and safe? Like your mother, for example, or I have like a couple of people who are in the age bracket of 60 who absolutely know nothing apart from sending a WhatsApp message, are suddenly online working from home.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, a very important one. So this is one of the things which we saw in the first 2 to 3 weeks, that across organizations, some of the organizations are still struggling on that. For example, and without naming, some of the government organizations which you spoke about, they said we were absolutely not ready for any kind of work from home. They cannot do that. They don't have infrastructure, they don't have devices, they don't have the capability or even understanding to work these kind of devices. So it was a struggle. It will remain a struggle for them. And obviously, some of the organizations which were laggards in digital transformation itself before, I mean, with COVID or without COVID, they're obviously struggling. But specifically to the point, people have been thrown, I mean, like our parents. So I actually used to coach them. And one of the things which they're very comfortable probably is working on a smartphone. Obviously, if, I mean, we would expect that 65, 70-year-old, even if they're 60 years old, they are working from home, they might not have as much workloads as us to need a PC. And they're very okay with the smartphone. They can do video calls, they can do FaceTime, they can do stuff. So they are able to do some stuff on the smartphones, but it's a real challenge. We have to coach them. We have seen some of the organizations actually have voice calls to actually help them navigate on the collaboration tools. And these are some of the features and tools and tips and tricks. And then the second module comes on the particular collaboration tool. That these are the things you can use. This should be open along with your email throughout the day, because this is your office now. your email was anyways in office, but this is your office. This is your virtual office. You should be logged in. These are the things. This is the messaging app, so on and so forth. So many of the organization actually struggled, challenged, but then they had training and a learning. This is a struggle of the digital skills learning and skilling and reskilling program. Many organizations were not ready, but they have done that. Many organizations are still there, but that's so they are also trying to find out ways to how innovatively, without with keeping the lights on, no business interruption. They are planning. They're actually trying to do that, and some of them were very successful.
IDC research has said that COVID-19 is about to push 64% Indian firms to adopt cloud computing. Can you just tell us more about that?
See, when we talk about I'm not obviously expert in cloud computing, but when we talk about cloud computing, it seems that when you're working from home, you have to access to the systems which are originally supposed to be accessed from office. So let's say a firm decides to have all SAP module to be accessed at home, and they decide that their workforce, if we give them access, their cost benefit analysis show that they should be able to save significant amount of cost. So they decide that 50% of the people will be working from home. So finance, accounts, so on and so forth. How do you enable them? Because that's a real-time data generation which happens when the invoices and payments and POs and everything else. So many of the organizations are now thinking that they should start investing in the cloud so that you start giving access to these kind of systems at the edge, right? That investment in the cloud, which initially companies were thinking that it's not required right now, or we'll wait another year, or we'll find out some money, they're forced to do that now. And that's how we say that more than 60% of the organization in India, and it's almost similar in Asia Pacific as well, they are seriously thinking about cloud computing. Actually comes in the top 5 priorities for people. And another thing is in this is, as you start thinking about the workforce and you start getting more remote workforce or freelancers or the gig workers on your platform, because right now demand cannot be predicted for your services. So as and when the flexibility in the demand and the services comes in, you start picking up resources from the platforms. And that's a good platform. But how do you give access to the system? I mean, access to the systems for that workforce? And this is where cloud and everything comes in. And that's a basis of the prediction.
So, in fact, there's a question from the audience. So, do you see businesses increase their budget on cloud services due to COVID-19 in the coming days in a big way?
We are already seeing more than 40% of the organizations which we spoke about, and we have been speaking to organizations every 15 days since March. That what are the priorities which are happening? Obviously, the theme which we are speaking about takes about 5-6 priorities from there, from virtual workspaces to collaboration tools and other stuff. But data analytic tools, productivity measurement tools, cloud computing, investment in the cloud, these are the balance 4 or 5. We're already seeing that this is climbing up the priorities for them. I would not have probably the exact spending figures in handy at this moment of time, but most of the organizations are thinking on these lines that they need to start investing in the cloud seriously right now. They were already doing that, but this has just accelerated their decisions now. Yes.
Okay, there is another question from the audience. Work from home has its pitfalls, such as information sharing by employees. How can such activities be controlled?
So information sharing by employees, see, one of the things which information in offices used to be, in offices also people use WhatsApp. People also use their own personal, chatting things. They have their own emails. So I think this goes back to the point, and the cost of sounding a little philosophical, but I think it's building trust with the employees. If you don't share, you trust your employees for the information sharing at home, how would you trust them not to share information in office as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
true that.
Right. So I go back to there that empathy is important these days, because many of the people it's a mental disturbing fact that 3 months people are at home working from here, everything is work 9 to 9. I think empathy and I think trust building, which has really worked for us in the past 3-4 months, that you build your trust, it goes a long way. And that's how, because if you're not able to trust your employees in delivering the value and these kind of issues of information sharing, then work from home will never work for that organization. Even if you put productivity and everything in place, these kind of fears, if linger in mind, out in the back of the mind, then I think it's going to be an issue. There will be some of the sensitive, obviously, sectors. Probably they will decide not to keep those roles that work from home, where there's a huge sensitivity of the data, at least in those hours. For example, capital markets and so on and so forth. But I go back to the trust and the empathy and really that morale boosting for the employees. There's no easy way to this.
Okay. There is another question from the audience. Is the gig economy here to stay, and can it be easily adopted by creative professionals such as video editors?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is here to stay. It was already being spoken about. There are so many platforms which have come up in India, which really take gig workers and give them on projects to the organizations. Many of the organizations on the other side are thinking of now, and we spoke about the demand elasticity right now. They don't know that what will be the demand and how will the demand come in, which sectors, which verticals, which skill set. So skilling and reskilling your own workforce obviously takes time and the resources. So what organizations are thinking, and this is one of the questions which we ask them, they are thinking is that they should be able to enroll themselves at a platform or build their, if they're large organization, they're building their own platform, so that many of the gig workers of specialized specialized skill set like video, data, AI developers, coders, so on and so forth, they can come and enroll themselves, and they can be picked up and put into projects 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, as the case may be, so that one, it's not on roll for the organization, so it's not a commitment. But again, at the same time, the gig worker has a multi-skill, and we've seen many of the workers who unfortunately have been laid off, or they are reskilling and upskilling themselves. Online courses are an all-time high right now because people are staying at home and they're trying to skill themselves also. So many of the people are skilling and they're ready to do this kind of project-based gig kind of work. And gig economy is absolutely here to stay. When we spoke to some of the CXOs in the organizations, about more than 60% of them said that gig economy, we are seriously looking at people from freelancers and gig economy. It's already happening. Yes.
All right. That was our last question for you, Navkender. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us in this webinar today. We learned so much about the best practices and the strategies to follow if work from home really becomes a reality in the coming days. And it is indeed, if it becomes the future of work. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Shibani. My pleasure to be here, and be safe and be healthy. Wishing everyone same platforms also. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.